This video will demonstrate the assembly process of the 4x8 Westbrook kit trailer, which includes additional steps not required for the 4x6 or 4x4 model. There are 3 boxes included in your kit. Box 1 – tires, fenders, lights, small metal parts hardware, and registration documents in a brown envelope on the outside of the box. Box 2 – axle and frame channels. Box 3 – leaf springs. Before you start, remove the registration documentation and keep it in a safe place. You will need these documents to get a license plate for your trailer. This includes the vehicle identification label, clear overlay, and NVIS or Certificate of Origin, depending on your country. Here's a list of the tools you will need to complete the assembly. Step 1. Frame assembly. To assemble the frame, you will need the assembly instructions, safety gloves, frame pieces, and hardware. The edges of the channels can be very sharp. Please wear your gloves to prevent injury. Start by laying out each channel of the trailer using the manual's diagram and the item number labeled on each channel. Take note that we will be building the frame upside down for the first half of the assembly. The front channel is the one with the 2 vertical slots. Place it at the front. Line up the driver's side channels with square holes facing up. The side channel with the marker light holes is the front end of the channel. The rear channel is the one with 2 angled cuts. Place it at the back with the side with the 2 holes facing up. Line up the passenger side channels the same way as the driver's side. Place the short connection channels on the outside of the side channels. Take the 4 cross channels and place them in the center of the frame, with the opening facing the rear of the trailer. Place the hardware that is needed at each junction. If you're not sure which hardware to use, consult the quick reference hardware sheet. Take note that during the frame assembly, you will only hand tighten the hardware. Tightening them at this time would make the assembly more challenging. We will secure the hardware in a later step. You will be using the short flange bolts on the top of the channels and longer hex bolts on the bottom. The long hex bolts will accommodate a 3/4 inch plywood sheet. Slide the corner of the side channel below the front channel and secure with the flange bolt on the top and hex bolt on the bottom. Note that the side channel will not fit inside the front channel. They must be overlapping to fit. Join the first cross channel to the side of the frame at the top and bottom on the 3rd 3/8 hole. With the front and back side channels touching, slide the connection channel over top. Place the second cross channel to the first hole of the connection channel and fasten all 3 channels at the bottom only. You will secure the top later during the axle installation. Join the middle portion of the connection channel on the top and bottom. Add the 3rd cross channel to the last hole of the connection channel and connect all 3 channels at the bottom only. Connect the 4th cross channel the same way that you connected the 2nd cross channel. You can now secure the passenger side by repeating what you did on the driver's side. With the passenger side completed, you can now slide the rear channel over both side channels and connect top and bottom. Step 2. Stake pocket installation. The 8 stake pockets can be found in the metal parts box. Line up the stake pocket with the 4 pre-drilled holes in the frame and secure with hex bolts and lock nuts using a 7/16 deep socket. It may be easier to use 2 if you have them. Repeat this process for all 8 stake pockets. Step 3. Axle installation. Secure the leaf spring mounting brackets to the square holes on the side of the trailer with the carriage bolts and lock nuts using a 9/16 socket. The round holes of the mounting brackets must be facing the center of the trailer. You will need to add a washer to the 2 inside holes that didn't connect to a cross channel in order to ensure a snug fit. Lay the axle between the mounting brackets. Place the leaf spring inside the mounting bracket with the eye of the spring toward the front and the flat side toward the back. Secure using hex bolts and lock nuts with a 13/16 socket and 7/8 wrench. Do not over-tighten, as there needs to be movement in the spring. Line up the leaf spring mount plate with the oval holes running in the same direction as the leaf spring. Put the first U-bolt around the axle and hand tighten with the locking nuts. Do the same with the second U-bolt. It is critical that you align the hole on the axle to the nib on the leaf spring while securing all U-bolts with a 9/16 socket. Do the same installation on both sides. With the axle assembly complete, the frame can now be flipped with the help of a second person. You may want to continue the assembly on workhorses if you have them available. Step 4. Fenders and tires. Align the fender support plate to the frame and secure it with machine screws and lock nuts using a 3/8 socket and Phillips screwdriver. If the holes are not perfectly aligned, use a punch to align them. Place the fender over top the fender plate. Hand tighten the top hole using the flange bolt and lock nut, making sure the nut is inside the fender. Hand tighten the other two holes to the frame using the flange bolts and lock nuts. Again, ensure the nut is inside the fender. Tighten all 3 fender bolts using a 9/16 socket and wrench. Place the tire on the hub and secure the rim by hand tightening the wheel nuts. Using a torque wrench with a 13/16 socket, torque to 95 foot-pounds. Repeat this process for the other side. Step 5. Tongue assembly. Slide the tongue channel through the vertical slot on the front channel. Hand tighten to the frame in 2 places using hex bolts and lock nuts on top and flange bolts and lock nuts on the bottom. Repeat this process on the other side with the second tongue channel. Step 6. Tongue connection bracket. Put the tongue connection bracket in place without sliding it fully into position with the threaded holes facing up. Separate the wires of the wire harness and feed each wire through the hole of the tongue connection. Feed the yellow and brown wire down the driver's side and the green and brown wire down the passenger side. Slide the tongue connection bracket in place, being careful not to pinch any wires. Hand tighten the top using flange bolts. Do not pull the white wire through. You will secure it to the coupler channel in a later step. On the bottom, in the 4 pre-drilled holes, secure with cutting screws using a 1/2-inch socket. You can now tighten the top using a 9/16 socket. With the tongue secured, you can now tighten all the bolts of the frame on top and bottom using a 9/16 socket and wrench. Hold off on tightening the top bolts if you plan on adding a plywood sheet to the deck. The top bolts will be used to secure the plywood in place. Step 7. Coupler assembly. Place the long coupler channel with the opening facing up. Take the safety chain by the 2 hooks and find the center link. Put the hex bolt through the 3rd hole of the coupler channel, threading it through the center chain link and hand tighten with the lock nut. Insert the tongue support foot into the coupler channel as far as it will go. Secure the coupler on the channel with hex bolts and lock nuts. Tighten the coupler using a 9/16 socket and wrench. Make sure it's tight enough that the tongue foot doesn't move, but the coupler spring releases. Pull the excess wire through the connection bracket, leaving enough wire at the front to connect the white wire to the coupler. Slide the assembled coupler channel into the tongue connection, being careful not to pinch the wiring. Line up the holes of the tongue connection bracket and secure with hex bolts and lock nuts using 3/4 socket and wrench. Remove the lock nut from the chain bolt. Place the ring terminal of the ground on the bolt. Secure with lock nut using a 9/16 socket and wrench. Do not over-tighten, as you may damage the ring terminal. Step 8. Wiring. Feed the yellow and brown wire along the driver's side using the pre-cut holes. Tuck the wire snug in the front corner for the amber marker light. Insert the marker light into the pre-drilled holes and secure it to the frame using a 10mm socket. With a knife, carefully separate the brown and yellow wire near the front corner by the marker light. Push the brown wire all the way to the back channel of the blue wire connector. Slide the marker light wire into the front channel without exposing any wire beyond the end of the wire connector. Using pliers, squeeze the metal blade of the connector until it is tight enough to make the connection between both wires. Verify the blade is all the way in place and close the cover. At the back of the trailer, cut the wire, leaving a 6-inch tail. Feed the wire through the tail light hole. With a knife, split the yellow and brown wire. Strip a 1/4-inch section at the end of both wires and twist the copper ends. Plug each wire into the corresponding holes in the back of the tail light. On the back of the tail light, run the wire along the recessed wire channel and then secure the license plate holder with the tail light using a 10mm socket. Pull the excess wire back into the frame and secure it with the zip ties using the holes provided. With the driver's side complete, you can now do the same process on the passenger side. Always test the lights before using the trailer. Verify the VIN label and registration document have the same VIN. Place the VIN label on the driver's side of the tongue channel and then place the overlay on the top of it. The assembly process of this 4x8 Westbrook kit trailer is now complete.